But what we can see here are many of the important features of Christian prayer. Christians had an odd situation in Rome because Christians were not Jews, not all of them, even though coming from Judaism, but they were also not pagans. And they had to talk with both. Remember, St. Paul, when he goes on mission, he always preaches at the synagogue first. So he goes to the Jews, he says, hey, this is the message of the Messiah, this is your guy, right? And Jesus was a Jew, obviously, who came to fulfill the law. Fine. So Christians talk to the Jews. But then they told him all these kind of New Testament things, all these new promises, like the resurrection of the body, that the Jews were not really familiar with. So some of them get cast out. Some of the Jews converted. But now the Christians, when they came to Rome, they found themselves in a kind of this pluriform society where you have all kinds of different religions. And we're not just talking about Roman religion. We're talking about the Roman religion. We talk about Eastern mystic religions, okay? Mithraism, the cults to Isis, the call to Osiris. You have kind of these mystagogical religions. You had these weird underground, like Eastern religions that, would meet and take some weird psychedelic drugs and like hum in a circle. Okay, all of these kind of things. And the Christians would had to talk to these people like, okay, what is a true religion all about? Let me tell you about Jesus Christ, right? So what the Christians did is they looked at both of these groups that they were not part of, and they said, okay, so what of these expressions is actually our heritage and what is not? And so the most important thing, the most important thing of the Christian early prayer and liturgy is the altar. The altar as a Christian symbol, very important. The altar was not a pagan sacrificial altar. There were no animals sacrificed on that altar. The altar was equally not just the table of the Sabbath meal. Okay, it was something more. And so recent studies have shown, and this is what the archaeologists tell us, that the Christian altar goes back to the table of the bread. Okay, what is it called? I have it written down here. The Sultan of the Temple of Jerusalem, and that was the place where you would place the bread as a sign of sacrifice to the god. And that is what most likely the altar goes back. Now, the Christians understood the altar to be sanctifying. And that's why we have in this beautiful picture, you have the altar, right? And you have the cross on top. And then a very important feature, you have the light coming in, right? So you have always this connection to the sky, to the rising sun, which is Christ himself towards the east. So what we have is you have a congregation here, and I'm not saying that this is a mass. This is probably not a mass, most likely not a mass, but this is kind of like an idealized Christian prayer reunion. So you have an altar of stone. You had both. You had also stone and of wood. You have the cross. You have the rising sun, which is Christ, and then you have a preacher apparently there on the left preaching to the community, right? And then in the foreground, you have a little Christian sarcophagus kind of randomly placed there with the Chi-Rho on it. I'll explain that later, so I'm not going to go into that too much. So that's what I want to take away, because we're going to need this piece of information for further tours, okay? We're going to need this, that the altar is really in the center of attention of the Christian liturgy. And this is different from both pagans and Jews. Just to give an example, pagan temples, the altar was a place for burnt sacrifice, which happened inside the altar. Inside the temple, right? Inside a small temple, let's say, I don't know, Jupiter. Okay, you have a temple to Jupiter, which would probably be rather large because Jupiter was the highest god. And then you would have the pagan priest go inside, do a burnt, sacrifice, bring out the meat, and people would wait on the outside of the temple. Okay, outside, and then they would distribute the meat, and then they would go home, right? Then they were done and they went home. Now for the Christians, everyone was welcome in the temple. So you would go into a church and then congregate to reach to the altar or congregate around the altar.